Welcome back to Geek Loud on youtube.com/Geek Loud. Today's video, we're going to have a look at some of the PS Plus offerings that have dropped in the last day or so. And then as a bit of a bonus, we got at the State of Play earlier today, some of the March offerings as well. So we'll go through those at the end of the video, but we'll start off with what's been released just in the last day or two. Jump down into the game catalogue and view the games. The easiest way to sort it, so you know what the current offerings are, sort by recently added is always the easiest way. And we'll skip down here. So we've got 13 offerings, which is not a bad start, because some of their offerings that we've had from time to time has been a bit lacking. But Ace Combat 7 is the first one we'll have a look at. There's a flight sim which was released back in 2019, Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown. Not a bad one there. I haven't put a lot of time into it. What I have done is played on a flight stick, which I hadn't really done in a long time, so that was certainly an interesting way to play it. And you can see that they've got a fair amount of DLC that you can get as well, and the one that I know has been interest to some people is the Top Gun Maverick aircraft set there that you've got, and you can see some of the offerings there that sort of ties in with the movie as it was released. Skip back there to, we've got Earth Defense Force, which was you can see there is a December 2018 release. We just have a quick look at the video here because it's not one that immediately springs to mind for me. Certainly missed playing this when it came out. But you can see obviously third person over the shoulder fighting aliens, etc. Looks probably not something that I'm going to jump into anytime soon, or certainly wouldn't be at the top of my list, not with the backlog going at the moment. We've jumped one too far out there. Go back to the recently added, and then we go down to Lost Sphere. We've got a JRPG there, which is sort of, as you can see by the screenshots there, is sort of in the mould of your 16-bit SNES style JRPGs there. Again, haven't put any time into that one, so I can't speak overly to that one. We've got Eye of Setsuna, another JRPG, which quite a few people that I've spoken to speak really highly of it. Again, it's sort of an up-resed version of what you'd expect out of a 16-bit era, but obviously for the modern consoles there, you can see with some of the screenshots, it does look good. Again, not something that I've had the opportunity to check out. Then we move over to Resi 7 Biohazard there. Have put a little bit of time into this one. For regular viewers of the channel, they will know that I'm not the biggest fan of horror games. Certainly the jump scares always get me, even when they're not coming. The anticipation of it always still gets me. The Forgotten City, as we move across to that one, it's a bit of an action-adventure type game. Again, this is not something that's come to my attention in the past, but you know, again, it's on the free system, so or if you've got access to the PS Plus catalogue, depending on what tier you're on, certainly it's probably well worth a look there. We've got Oninaki there, another Japanese style action RPG that we've got there. You can duck across there, you can see sort of some of the action shots. Again, not something that I've put a lot of time into, but certainly, again, another offering. That looks like I'm pretty heavy on the Japanese style games, because you've got Scarlet Nexus there as well. And again, you can see some of the screenshots that we've got there that sort of show what you've got, and then scroll down and it gives you a bit of a rundown as to what the game is. So that's on there as well. And I think it's the PS. Yeah, so there we go. You can see just in the bottom left of the game itself, or the tile, is the PS4 and PS5 versions. Tekken 7, fighting game, ongoing fighting game. I think anyone that's interested in that knows what's that about. what that is about. It's certainly not something that's up my alley. I'm not a big fighting game fan. We've got Outriders on there as well, which is co-op shooter, basically. So you've got 1 to 3, you can jump into a team. In essence, you sort of crash land on a hostile planet, and you've got to fight your way through that and work your way through that. And it's actually got some add-ons there in terms of different content and levels and extra stuff to work through there. Borderlands 3, I think most people probably have heard about this one by now, or Borderlands, the series itself. I thought this was probably not the best one. Borderlands 2, in my opinion, is probably the best one, but it's, I guess, commonly termed as a looter shooter. So you've got, in essence, you've got some light role-playing mechanics in there, but the basic gist of the gameplay is that as you're working your way through the story, that you're continuing to get new weapons and, upgrade your upgrade skills, or your upgrade path is essentially through getting the various weapons and upgrading your weapons and that sort of stuff. Still a good game, probably just didn't quite have the humour that number 2 did, but certainly fantastic. I might just skip over Horizon for a moment because that's probably the pick of my bunch there, but The Quarry came out mid last year. It's a bit of a choose your own adventure type, I guess, is probably the best way to describe it in terms of the gameplay. So you control a number of teenage characters that are sort of lost up in the woods, and depending on your actions and your choices and what you decide through the game depends on who lives, who dies, how the story ends, how it plays out, and that sort of thing. From Supermassive, who brought us Until Dawn, if anybody's checked that out, it's a fantastic game. And then they sort of followed that up with some I guess smaller versions. They're not really full games, they're just sort of snappier versions of the Dark Pictures anthology. So very similar sort of gameplay, but essentially what a much shorter bite. And the skip over to this one, but I'll go back to it now, is Horizon Forbidden West, which for me, I platinumed last year when it came out. Probably put I think close enough to 50 hours into it to get the platinum, but absolutely amazing. It's stunning visually, and the pictures you can see up on screen probably don't really do it justice, to be honest with you, when you're actually playing it. It's got a fantastic story that goes with it, massive open world, and it's just fantastic to explore. And then you've obviously got, as you can see in the background of some of those screenshots there, the dinosaurs, or the robotic dinosaurs as they are, that in essence, that's where, yes, you do fight some human enemies, but the best combat comes about tackling some of those bigger enemies that you sort of play through. So that's the selection for February that's just dropped. My pick of the bunch would be, as I said, Horizon Forbidden West. Fantastic game, put a significant amount of time into it. And we might jump across to the classics catalogue. So we've got a couple of games that dropped on there as well. Again, we'll sort by the recently added. And you see Harvest Moon, that's probably the precursor to the current offerings on the Nintendo Switch with some of the life sim games, I guess, is probably the best way to describe it, but that's probably one of the original ones there. It did have a release on Harvest Moon did have a release on the original SNES back in the day as well. Wild Arms 2, and I think we had, I think it's still on there, Wild Arms 1 is still available on the system to play as well. That was one of the first offerings that we got, so that's a follow-up for that. And Legend of Dragoon, both of those are JRPGs. If you've played Final Fantasy 6, 7, 8, 9, I guess that's sort of in that sort of mould as to what you're looking at. Both fantastic games, and probably overlooked to a large degree in terms of people's memories of that time. Certainly anyone that was around playing games at those times may well remember those, but the newer sort of audiences may not be aware of that. They don't sort of have the prestige that Final Fantasy does, but certainly fantastic JRPGs in their own rights. And then we've got Destroy All Humans, which is the re-release that came out on the PS4 in 2020. That's not the original one that came out on the PS1 and original Xbox era in the early 2000s. It's the remake for the PlayStation 4 for that one. So these are offerings in terms of what we're getting this month. So in my opinion, pretty decent lineup, I would have thought, as to what we're getting for this month. And as I mentioned at the start, we did have a bit of an offering as to what we're getting for March. So they, at the State of Play, PlayStation announced that the games for March that we're getting is on the base tier for PS Plus is Battlefield 2042, Minecraft Dungeons and Code Vein. So Battlefield 2042 had a bit of a rocky start when it was released, but patched it out fairly well. And one of the lads that joins me on the Gaming Enforcement Agency, or GEA, is Troy, speaks very highly of it. Has put quite a bit of time into it. Minecraft Dungeons is more of a story-based version of Minecraft for anyone that enjoys that, especially for the young kids. And then Code Vein is the other one, which I think flew under the radar quite a bit, but the reality is I thought it was a pretty decent attempt at a Soulsborne type game. It's got that same sort of a vibe to it, where it can be quite difficult. Probably not as difficult as the Soulsborne game, but it does have its moments, and it does have the that sort of gameplay loop where if you die, you reset back to your last checkpoint. All the enemies are back when you're doing the run through again. So that's the offerings we've got there. And then coming to the game catalogue for March 2023, we have got Ghostwire Tokyo, which I think a fairly underrated game that came out last year. We've got it takes a little bit to get into. I probably spent 2 or 3 hours, and really glad that I persisted with it, because the story is absolutely fantastic. A bit of a different. It's basically set in almost an abandoned Tokyo, without giving too much of the story away. And then you've got various spirits that are roaming the city that you've got to deal with. Immortals Phoenix Rising, which is a typical Ubisoft style game in terms of, you've got a massive open map that you've got to work through and deal with all the icons and the collectibles and that sort of stuff. But it's set in a ancient Greece sort of mythological setting. So you've got a pretty good story with that one. I put quite a bit of time into that one. Didn't platinum it, but did finish the story with that. I thought it was actually quite enjoyable. It's probably the best way to describe it. It's a variation on the Assassin's Creed style way of going about the gaming there, but that's there as well. Rainbow Six Extraction, which was a follow-up to Rainbow Six Siege. I don't think it's really got as much of a fan base as Siege does, but that's there as well. You've got Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection, which was the PS5 re-release of Uncharted 4 and Legacy of Thieves. I think, I'm blanking on it, but the 2 games that were released on the PS4 being bundled up, up-resed, and a bit of enhancement there for the PS5. Both fantastic games. If you've never jumped into them, certainly well worth the time and effort into that. And the final one that we've got, which I'm going to get criticised probably for butchering this one, but Chahia, which is a day and date release on the service. So that's coming out March 21. So just under a month's time that we'll get our hands on that. So similar to Stray that got released last year, we're getting that release day and date. And those were the offerings that we saw out of the State of Play from Sony today. So that's the update that we've got, the latest drop of the games of the PS Plus. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, make sure you check out our channel on Thursday, 8 p.m. Australian time, for Gaming Enforcement Agency. That's GEA, myself, Troy, and Unky Dunky. We jump in there, talk about the games we've been playing for the week. We talk about the news of the week and the upcoming releases, and then we also throw out there the standoff, which is a topic we pick each week. Throw a couple of games that fit into that topic, and then choose a winner out of that. Last week's topic, given that we had the PSVR 2 being released, was what's our best VR experience. We had a number of contenders in there, and then selected our winner out of that. And make sure that if you're jumping into it live, jump into the chat, because we've certainly got monitoring that as we go. We answer questions as we're going, and then do a bit of a wrap up at the end. So that's 8 p.m. Eastern time in Australia for that one. Again, make sure you check out the channel if you like what you're seeing today. There's plenty of videos going up each and every day that we're throwing up, covering various topics, installs, let's plays, info videos like this one, and GEA. And make sure that you like it, subscribe it, and you will never miss it.
Oh, that was luck. Hey, that's something. Oh, look at him!
Two players split.
Old Uncle Donkey. Gee, Donkey.